Hi everybody, hi every spirit, welcome very much to the full moon in Sagittarius analysis live stream. Esoteric Cloud is here, and let's talk about a very important astrological event of this Gemini season. We are right now with a full moon. That means that the moon is opposing the sun, so that means that we can see completely and right in our faces the needs, the feelings and the emotions that in general everybody is reacting and responding in a more general basis, or in a more deep, or in a more overreacting and over responsive way. Thank you very much for being here. I wish you a beautiful full moon. I wish you feel fulfilled. I wish you feel satisfied, and if you don't, I wish you to reflect, using this full moon to fully reflect on what you didn't do, on what you did that made you not feel satisfied, made you not feel fulfilled, because you might have the things, you might have the desires, you might just be spiritually distracted or spiritually lost, and then you don't feel the fulfillment even though you have all the resources to do so. That's the bad way to go about the full moon, and it's not really our fault per se, it's our responsibility, because it is indeed a way more, subconscious, emotional, internal response, because it's a full moon. And when it comes to the moon, a lot of people are not aware, because that's how it's supposed to be. It's subconscious, it's the opposite to the sun. We can see the sun, we can see things because of the sun, and the moon, we can only see it when the sun reflects on it. So it's natural that we don't see many things that are attached or around our moon, but when the sun, aka light or attention, is shared or shined upon those things, we can see them. And sometimes people overreact, especially on full moons, because they weren't seeing the full picture of their internal world and of the things that you were attracting, supporting, and feeding. Sometimes they get scared, sometimes they get too excited, sometimes they just feel like, what? Sometimes they be like, oh, that's not mine, or I'm not the one attracting that, and they are. So it's all about how you react to seeing things clearly or less clearly that you were already working on upon. And especially with full moon in Sagittarius, it's going to be all about dreams, illusions, and imaginations, creativity, passion, frustration, individuality, sharing all those things, and also wisdom, knowledge, the ability to travel, and the ability to derive and express with wisdom and knowledge your own personal testimonies. All of that in a mutable, adaptable, scattered, lost, or gullible way. And it's all be about connecting our feelings, connecting to our spiritual friends, to our spiritual neighbors, people that feel the need as well to receive or express in the same wavelength that your creativity, people that need to react and respond, or be the ones sharing spiritual belief systems, spiritual truths, spiritual knowledge. Remember, the only real truth is that you are the creator and we all together create worlds, right? So actually, or not actually, but also core focus on sharing or being more mutable with your emotions and feelings about your own personal testimonies, about your own Bible, because in a way, quote unquote, we are all Bibles. What does that mean? We all are spirits having experiences, doing miracles, because life, being alive, is already a miracle. Being able to logically perceive the world and subconsciously through spirituality and astrology and everyday actions go deeper into that experience, that's a miracle every single day. And then everybody has their own works, and since we are all one God or one creator, when you go through your own journey and you derive your own personal testimonies, you are writing your Bible on yourself. Through your experiences, your body, mind, and emotions change, grow, get more smooth, or get a bit harder. Sometimes people get a hardened heart because of their personal testimonies, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes you really need to express that, or to bring some faith, to bring some excitement in a way that seems lost, or that doesn't seem logical, but sometimes people need that to break the fluids and the awarenesses that got stuck because they spend too much time in the same space without expanding. And Jupiter, which is the ruler of this full moon, is all about expansion. And like I mentioned before, wisdom, knowledge, the ability to travel, and your own personal testimonies, and especially sharing them. And now I want to touch on another very important point, which is the ability to travel. You know what I'm saying? The ability to travel, or the lack of the ability to travel. Because if you are too logical, or if in your surroundings, Gemini, third house, in your relationships, in your more logical and surface level connections, Gemini and Mercury, if it's too dry, or if you are too dry, too cold, too distant, too logical, and denying certain connections, you or your surroundings, or you because of your surroundings, or your surroundings because of you, might feel that they cannot travel. They might feel they cannot expand. They might feel they cannot believe, they cannot have faith, passion, and frustration, and connect and be mutable with them in a creative, exciting, and spiritual way. And why is that important? Because spirits are always traveling, because we exist. So we are constantly exiting spaces to go into new spaces. That's existing. A spirit doesn't exist when it's not traveling, when it's not moving, because the only thing constant in the universe is change. And for example, here in Portugal, when somebody's being dumb or a bit distracted, you say, oh, you don't exist, tu não existes. That means that their spirit, it's not aware, because it's not traveling to another space to then be able to reflect to the previous space that it was in. That's also why astrology is greatly used, or best used, to reflect and analyze what we have done or what we are currently in, once we develop a better awareness of it, instead of trying to predict the future. And that's actually a big thing, because a lot of people discredit or credit astrology in their perspectives about predictions, because they think that's the valuable part of astrology, is predicting the future. What will I manifest? What will I go through? And that's not really the best use case. The best use case is to analyze what we have done, because then once you know better, you do better. And sometimes you understand that you were in spaces where the current were too strong and you were just under the current. Like sometimes you are slightly aware that you're doing things wrong, or you could be doing more, or you could be doing less, but you still do those things. And there is still a sense of progress while you slowly get out of that routine and pattern. You slowly get out of that situation, but you still go through it, you still participated in those situations that you knew you could do better, but you do better slowly but surely. That means that the influences, spiritually speaking, in that space were overwhelming your spirit. So your spirit was going around in that space looking for an exit. When you can change real quickly, when you can suddenly break out of something, it means your spirit was strong enough to surf and swim in those currents, right? So when it comes to the ability to travel, it's very important that you feel free to travel spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Most likely, or most importantly, okay, hold on, technical issues. I've right back. I just need to change some settings on my stream. And now I need to change some settings here really quick. Okay. So, like I was saying, the ability to travel, right? And let's backtrack here a little bit, y'all. We're talking about ability to travel. The astrology is best used when looking back because we existing and you can only evaluate a space fully when you will leave it behind and you can look at it from a different angle. That's what astrology is really useful for. And how I was connecting that to the ability to travel, I guess I was just justifying it with that's what spiritual is. Yeah, then that's what spiritual do. Spirits are always traveling in order to exist. And then it was a sidetrack to astrology being used to evaluate your travels and assess how you have been and how you're doing right now on a spiritual level. And that with the sun opposing the moon, if you or your surroundings are too logic, too cold, too scattered, but still mutable and looking for connection, you yourself or your surroundings might feel that they can't travel spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or physically. And with moon or full moon in Sagittarius being ruled by Mercury, by Jupiter, I mean, it's very important the ability to travel spiritually and mentally. Because if you feel stuck spiritually, there is no thing in this world that will satisfy you. There is no pleasure, no relationship, no amount of profit that will make it feel it worthwhile. Because if you can't travel the distance, spiritually speaking, that your spirit wants to travel, and how can we see those things in a more conscious level is through imaginations. If you imagine yourself in a better position, in a more freeing position, in a lighter position, and then you remember some things that brings that down or that makes that imagination feel impossible, or if your surroundings or somebody, some things or some places in those surroundings makes that imagination feel impossible and you feel dry and you cancel your own imagination, or somebody in your surroundings cancel your imagination, that means you are not free to travel. You are spiritually in jail, in hell. And then you just keep repeating, and instead of you being an angel, you become a demon in hell. And the thing is, it's nobody's fault, literally. It's your responsibility to, and it's not about being stronger, because we always hear that you gotta be stronger, you gotta be this, you gotta be that. No, you just gotta be mutable. Mutable enough to change your shape and form, change your perspective, change your feelings and emotions, change your imaginations to not go against and break the enemy, but to go around it, to go through it. That's the most powerful way to deal with spiritual threats. It's to go through them. right? Sometimes you have to fight spiritually when you want to maintain a space, when you want to maintain a progress, an image, a status, an authority. But when it's about traveling and going to better spaces, if there is a bunch of rocks, hard logic facts, repetition, lostness, straight up opposition, the best spiritual superpower is to create a vehicle, a mentality, an imagination, or a feeling that goes through it, right? You don't even need to engage in war. You don't even need to try and expand your space over somebody else's space. You just go through them. And that's exactly, infinitely, what full moon in Sagittarius can bring to us. Because if you are too dry, or if your surroundings are too dry and cold, canceling your ability to travel, to space travel, you just need to be aware of that and start it to change and be more mutable, be more flexible, maybe be a bit lost, maybe forget a bit about reality, maybe discard facts and take a leap of faith so you can go through all those blocks, all those cold winters, spiritually speaking, and you can reach a better space within your imagination, within your visions. That's the most important key to keep in mind to keep you spiritually protected, because spiritual warfare, it's not just about weapons or shields. There are many possibilities to achieve your goal, spiritually speaking. Now, there is also a very good use case for the sun in Gemini, right? Or for the more dry and logical energy, which is to calm down, refresh, and balance any extra excitement, extra passion, or maybe you are traveling too far and that can make you anxious, that can make you nervous, that can make you a bit paranoid, because now you are aware of shapes and forms that you were never aware of, and you can really turn that off because your spirit loves new things. Your spirit loves following shiny things. That's why insects go into flames, because that's what spiritual spirits do in a very primordial level. They chase lights, because that means there are other spirits existing there, and our spirit, if you are alive, it means your spirit wants to exist. So if your spirit is not yet able to create its own world, to create its own light, it will follow other lights so it can learn from example and be influenced by those lights in order to create its own light, to participate with all those lights. That's why, especially in more Asian culture, there is a lot of reference to a firework event in the start of the universe, or in some big events of the universe. It's fireworks. That's our spirits creating things, creating lights, creating awarenesses, right? And bugs, they are very early in the chain of evolution, but they're doing great progress, by the way. They even look from a different world because they're so new and they are so different, right? But they still on that primordial level, when a lot of them, they just follow lights because their spirit is still not aware of their more developed awareness, so they're still doing things based on their older awareness, chasing lights, survival mode, right? So you might be traveling too far and seeing too many lights spiritually, and you get overwhelmed. You don't know where to go, because lights or stars, they can guide you. We use that in astrology. The Portuguese use that with astronomy to go to different lands, but also that has an astrological significance, right? So because they were looking for a specific type of land, so they could follow stars that indicate them the spiritual geographical location that they want to meet. But that's for another video as well, right? But we're really expanding here. It's really full moon in Sag. Let's really talk about more spiritual subjects in a more logical way, so it can make sense, because there is no point to a lot of spirituality, to a lot of wisdom, if then it doesn't make sense, if then we can relate it and build our own mental structures around it, because that's our goal. That's why we are alive in this world together, to build something together, to relate our internal realm and our spiritual travels, testimonies with others. So if we can do that in a relatable way, if we can do that in a way that you can, oh yeah, that thing that you can point to that as well, there is really no purpose. Of course, you can't throw your pearls to the swines, but you gotta throw some pearls, and some of them will be eaten by swines, other will be valuable, but you gotta be there, you gotta be on the show, right? But Other than that, we were talking about traveling and the ability to travel. And okay, now you might be going too far. That's what happened to me right now. I went a bit too far with the expansion, with the traveling, and then you get a bit lost, you get a bit overwhelmed because stars, other spirits, lights, other examples, others' awarenesses can help you guide yourself. If you know that star means I'm going into that type of space. But if you see too many lights, now it's not useful for navigation, it's just confusion. And then you feel a bit nervous because you don't know where you're going. You don't know if it's a good place. You don't know if it's cold, if it's hot, if it's stormy, if it's calm, if it's stale. You know what I'm saying? So then the sun in Gemini can help you see patterns and lines and make things a bit more cool, and you can slow down a little bit and be more aware of your surroundings. Third house type stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's the overall or the most important points of this full moon in Gemini. Make sure that you have the ability to travel, but don't travel too far too fast. Make sure you don't go to war. This is not a Mars alignment. This is Jupiter and Mercury. And Mercury is represented in Tarot for the magician. The ability to transmute things, to create matter, to change matter. And then you can do that on a spiritual and emotional level with full moon in Gemini as well. So this alignment, it's all about transmuting yourself, going through the things that seem to oppose you. But keep in mind, don't lose your shape and form. Don't lose your mind, because your mind is a fixed awareness. If you're too mutable, if you change too much, you will lose your identity. You will lose your limits and boundaries. You will lose your core set of values. And are those set of values, those spiritual preferences that makes you who you are, that gives you your specific and unique shape and form. Okay? Also, make sure you're not traveling too far or too quick. Make sure you can find the way to go through, literally, or go around blocks that don't allow you to expand emotionally and spiritually. But also make sure that you can communicate, think, and analyze in a logical and relatable way so you can connect and be connected to yours and others' personal testimonies, wisdom, and knowledge, because sometimes it's more exciting and more valuable to receive or to just engage in a sharing of personal testimonies, of wisdom and knowledge. And then your fire comes together with my fire and we create a bigger fire. And then that fire, the heat, the inspiration, the freedom, the drums of liberation can reach more spirits. And then they bring their own fire and it's a good cycle. Now, let's get a bit specific. And before the stream, I picked the card to depict us the general state of the full moon in Gemini, full moon in Sagittarius for 2025. And we got the Five of Wands. What does that mean? That means that we are getting more connected, more emotional. We are caring a bit more, and we are making it more of a matter about our passion, motivation, anger, frustration, creativity, expressions, visions, actions, spirituality, and spiritual belief systems in general. And that makes a lot of sense because full moon is in Sagittarius, so it's all about that fire. And then we are feeling more, we are reacting more to ours and others' expressions in a logical or cold way because of Sun in Gemini about personal testimonies, wisdom, and knowledge. And how is the best way to go about this space? That's the Dragon Oracle card, and in there we got the Emerald Dragon. So that means that in order to be more profitable and take the most out of this alignment, you gotta force yourself, and if necessary, force your surroundings to see value and to be value, because sometimes people are toxic and chaotic and destructive because they don't see value in themselves. Then you go into deprivation. I learned, actually it was in one anime, it was Maggie, the Labyrinth of Magic, that you go into deprivation when you start hating your own past and your own path. because you have to be proud and find value in the steps that you took in your current position. Even if it's a bad position right now, first it's your position, so that's valuable in that aspect alone. You were the one making that path. So to you, there is no more valuable path because you can't walk other paths. And if you start to value your path, even if you are in a bad situation right now, slowly but surely, and then through accumulation, explosively, you, you will create a good path for yourself. That's guaranteed, right? If you are not in deprivation, if you're not hating or taking value and energy from your previous path and your current situation, there is no other way but to create a better situation, because now you are creating value, you are seeing, you are being value. And that's very important. That's the emerald dragon. It's the green from the heart, from nature, from abundance, being able, it's from the chlorophyll, being able to transform solar energy and minerals into energy, and being able to transform energy and carbon dioxide into oxygen. So being able to transmute all those things, value, into value, I mean, into valuable resources, into valuable energy. All right. So the goal here is to take what we are getting more attached to and more connected to from the full moon in Sagittarius, and then attribute value to it. Attribute value to yourself, to your surroundings, to your testimonies, to your wisdom, to your knowledge. And if really necessary to you, force yourself, break some old conceptions, break your mind in a reasonable way. Don't go do anything crazy, but in order to find value within yourself. And if necessary, or actually in most cases than you think, you must not allow the surroundings to dictate your value. You dictate your own value. And then, if the surroundings don't agree with them, it's up to you to build a bridge, in this case through Gemini, through mutable, cold logic and detached thoughts and ideas, to connect to them your value until they can adapt and they want to adapt and change their perspective to your value. So, Emerald Dragon, make yourself valuable, I mean, make yourself see value in yourself and in your path so far, and if necessary, make others be valuable or feel the need to be valuable, and make others value their own path or help them. As an example, by being an example, help them see value in their path or in their current position, because they might not be seeing that. All right? So, now that we have that out of the way, it's time to go and check how is the full moon in Sagittarius aligning with the rest of the natal chart. Because last year, there was a full moon in Sagittarius. Next year, there will be a full moon in Sagittarius, but it's always different because of the way that the full moon itself, it's aligning with the other elements and how you personally are reacting to it, right? So, first, let's start by real quick understanding what is full moon in Gemini and what is sun in full moon in Sagittarius, I mean, and what is sun in Gemini. So, full moon, or first, the moon, it represents our reactions, our responses, our feelings and emotions, our internal realm, what we are attracting, and what we are supporting and feeding, thus being associated with mother or nature, for an example. Then full moon means that I just said is full. It's everywhere. So you can be feeling more, you can be supporting more, you can be feeding more, you can be more into your own internal realm. That means you can be less logical, less sociable, less open, depending on how you react to your own internal realm. Then we have full moon in Sagittarius. What is Sagittarius? Is mutable, fire, the ability to be mutable, adaptable, lost, or scattered with your visions, passions, frustrations, motivations, desires, actions, and creativity. then it's ruled by Jupiter. So to that, it brings expansion, the ability to travel, and the ability to derive your own wisdom and knowledge and then express them in a mutable way through your personal testimonies, through your own unique way to express and create imaginations and visions and allegories and metaphors and stories, as in you talking, or stories as in a book or a romance or a manga or a video, right? And it's actually basically YouTube. It's not only that, but mainly Gemini and Sagittarius. Sagittarius, your personal interests, or your personal testimonies, I mean. Sagittarius, your creativity, and then Gemini, be mutable so you can reach a large audience in a logical, relatable, and realistic way. Right? YouTube or is it any form of video communication, right? Because that's very different from writing and whatnot. Writing is a bit more earthly, a bit more static, right? So then what does that mean, full moon in Sagittarius? That we might be overreacting or over responding to ours and others because of the mutable energy, dreams, illusions, and imaginations, passions and frustrations, creativity, wisdom, knowledge, travels, and personal testimonies. And you might be influencing or be influenced by your surroundings. And the thing is, your surroundings through the lens of Sagittarius are very different from your surroundings through the lens of Gemini. Through the lens of Gemini, it's like literally your surroundings, your neighbors, teachers, students, whatever. But your surroundings through Sagittarius is your spiritual surroundings. It's what imaginations, feelings, futures, potentials, um, beliefs, creeds that you are surrounded for, around, that you are surrounded for. So that is harder to perceive, especially because most of the society is more logical, or they need more logical terms to feel safe and secure in their beliefs. And sometimes that's counterintuitive, but that's for another video. So with Sun in Gemini, actually, it's very easy now, or it's easier to see clearly and consciously your spiritual surroundings, what passions and motivations, what dreams and illusions, what spiritual limits and boundaries are you in, what are you around on. Do you have space to expand? Do you have space to safely travel? Do you have space to burn your fire, or you need to be careful? You need to contract your fire a little bit. That's very important, and you are able to see that right now. And if you want a more in-depth and more clear aspect, get a full moon reading with me, full moon personal consultation, tarot reading, email me, or use the IG in the description down below to contact me as well. And then after the full moon in Gemini, or at the same time with the full moon in Gemini, in Sagittarius, damn it, we have Sun in Gemini. That means that our actions, expressions, and visions, we want them to be more mutable, but also more logical, more cold, more rational, more surface level, and then it's ruled by Mercury, so we want that to be more organized, coming from a space where there was some analysis and some connection and relatability that can make us feel a part of something when it comes to thinking, analyzing, and being in society. So now we have full moon in Sagittarius, and we have actually a lot of changes coming through. We have, for example, Jupiter is now into Cancer, Mercury went recently into Cancer, Venus went recently into Taurus, Saturn is very early into Aries, and Pluto is retrograde into Aquarius. So we have a lot of changes. The world is changing literally. Uranus also very late degrees Taurus, about to go into Gemini. Neptune is 2 degrees Aries as well, so very, very early. So it's a time for a lot of changes, and some will be sudden, some will be a bit more like over time, and sometimes you are immediately aware of those changes, but they take some time. And sometimes people get nervous or anxious because they know it's happening, they know it will happen, but you still need to wait, or you still need to participate, you still need to play a bit more your part in those changes. But it's also for another video. Right now, full moon in Sagittarius is in conjuncting Venus in Taurus. So that means we are misunderstanding ours and others' more fixed or stubborn ways to relate, have pleasure, and commit about value, sophistication, privacy, security, and profit. Also, this also might mean that we are misunderstanding support system. Your surroundings might be misunderstanding how you support yourself and them, and you might be misunderstanding how they support you and themselves on a physical level, money and structure, Taurus, and on a spiritual level, or on a belief level, or on a faith level, because full moon in Sagittarius. Then we also have full moon in Sag, in conjuncting as well Mercury in Cancer. So we are misunderstanding how us and others think, communicate, and analyze about new emotions, new feelings, new spiritual purpose, and new spiritual travels or destinations. And key point here, full moon in Sag is misunderstanding for alignments. So there might be a lot of misunderstandings from yourself, from your surroundings. It's all about your feelings and emotions. It's all about the surroundings, feelings and emotions, about spirituality, passion, and creativity in general. So also, then we have here a little bit of help to bring some structure, to bring some patience, to bring some uniqueness, individuality, and ego and value and confidence and trust in yourself, because you have full moon in Sagittarius trining Mars in Leo. Leo is fixed, consistent, stubborn, and Sag is mutable. So there is a gift to feel more mutable, feel more free, or to overreact in your travels, your expressions, or your feelings about yours and others' fixed or stubborn light, attention, authority, expressions, and visions about passion, motivation, anger, frustration, and deep desires that you or others want to be seen or want to see in a more light, validated, and pleasurable light. But also, there is a gift from Mars if you are passionate, if you are personal, if you are into your personal life, because some people are not into their personal life, right? They're living somebody else's life, or they're living far away from their own life. But if you are consistent or stubborn with your personality, personal interests, personal life, or personal insecurities, in a trying to make them look better to yourself or others, or try to make them more efficient and more profitable, there is the gift to feel more consistent and to feel more grounded when it comes to the full moon in Gemini, when it comes to you or surroundings overreacting or over traveling spiritually, mentally, or through their expressions. So even though you might feel a bit lost, or you might feel like it's a bit too much, you have a place that can make you sure, that can guide you, that can make you feel, no, it might be a bit too crazy right now, but I see the way. I know the way. This is the way. Because there is a constant light. Imagine being mutable means that that light is always moving. Cardinal means that that light sometimes disappears and then reappears. Fixed is fixed. So imagine you're going too far, you feel a bit lost. That light, that is your passions, your frustrations, can guide you to the direction that you want to go, or at least can tell you where you are. Because if you were in a specific location and that fixed light was on an angle, then now you are on another location and that light is on a different angle, you can make some calculations and see where you came from. Because sometimes it goes through certain travels that you are not aware of, and then you need to backtrack, you need to catch up. You know what I'm saying? Then we have full moon in Sagittarius as well, in conjuncting Jupiter in Cancer. That's really early, so Jupiter is still in both Gemini and Cancer, So we were expanding in mutable and logical ways. Now we are expanding in cardinal, in new and emotional ways. So we are transiting. So we are bringing some logic, we are bringing some mutability to ours and others' new emotional and spiritual purpose that are being expanded on. And the full moon in Sagittarius is making us and others overreact and overrespond to the expression or lack of expression about spiritual notions. So you might be misunderstanding the privacy of Jupiter or the surface level and logicality of where Jupiter was coming from. Then we have also here a little bit of another gift. Oh, it's a grand fire trine actually between the moon, the moon, Mars, and Saturn. So actually, we have emotions and care, passion and frustration, structure and connections. So actually, a very balanced fire trine in my opinion. So we have full moon in Sagittarius trining Saturn in Aries. So a gift to feel more free or to feel more lost in an extreme way about new realities, new structures, new limits, boundaries, and associations that come from new feelings, new expressions, and new visions, dealing with your personality, personal interests, personal insecurities, passions, and frustrations. Also, a gift to initiate new places of comfort, of structure, and stability when it comes to overreaction, over imagination, or over traveling. But keep in mind, it's cardinal, so they might uh, go as fast as they came, but what matters is that you can use that feeling, you can use that connection or association for the time that you exactly need to use them. Then not feel sad or weird or detached when it comes away, and don't feel too impatient or bored if you are not yet traveling to another space, because full moon in Sag might make you feel impatient or bored because you have not yet traveled to another space. Then full moon in Sagittarius as well, in conjuncting Uranus in Taurus. So misunderstanding, overreactions, and over responses about uniqueness, change, rebelliousness, and freshness when it comes to being fixed or stubborn about getting and maintaining profit, structure, security, sophistication, beauty, and efficiency. Also, full moon in Sagittarius, trining Neptune in Aries. This is a crazy, kind of in a bad way, but if you are a strong spirit, if you have a strong soul fixer, if you have a strong, solid awareness, aka a strong mentality, it's a good alignment because this is an insane gift to expand. Because Neptune, I like to call it the grandmother of Jupiter. It's basically Jupiter, imaginations, visions, feelings, spirituality, inspiration, creativity, but on a way bigger scale. And Neptune already experienced what Jupiter is experiencing right now, but Jupiter is experiencing on its own. Because Jupiter was created by a group of spirits, just like you and the world that we live in was created by a group of spirits. And why do we know that Neptune already did it? Because Neptune is so far away, it's already going into a new world. That's why it's only a co-ruler. And how do we know that Jupiter is experiencing the same spaces that Neptune did? Because Neptune was once in this space and now it's going away. And spirit and Jupiter is still in this space, right? So, and we can draw relations. Jupiter or Neptune co-rules Pisces, which is the internal side, the first awareness of the group of spirits that created Jupiter, right? Then what does that mean right now with Neptune in Aries and Jupiter and full moon in Sagittarius? Because full moon in Sag is ruled by Jupiter. And then we have Neptune, which is like its grandmother. So it's a gift to initiate new, huge travels or awarenesses about yours and others, overreactions and over responses about being mutable or lost with your testimonies, wisdom, knowledge, and spirituality in general. And Neptune usually represents generational curses, archetypes. And what are archetypes? It's like general ways to identify spirits. If a spirit likes to go to cold spaces, and then you can see that other spirits do that as well, you can call them a certain name to identify them, to organize them. That's basically what we do in astrology, but about seasons, not about spiritual spirit. That's about what spirits create, right? So you can now be you or your surroundings, and you can be more aware of that as well, can be overreacting to new awarenesses about those archetypes or about generation curses or about a big subconscious pattern that a big part of the world is in, and you are aware of it through your own perspective or through the surroundings giving you that perspective. And so you might be overreacting, or you might be seeing others overreacting to those new expressions, to those new visions, to those new behaviors coming out of that new and fresh awareness. Aries, cardinal fire, are of those big spiritual connections and concepts. And last but not least, full moon in Sagittarius, sextiling Pluto in Aquarius, an opportunity to overreact, overrespond, or over travel to the new world. And what is that new world? It's Pluto in Aquarius. What is Pluto? Transformation, deep transformation. What is Aquarius? Fixed air, the ability to be fixed, consistent, stubborn, or stuck with your own unique mind, because Uranus, your own unique way to think, communicate, and analyze, because air, about reality, and still light and fresh and innovative, because air and Uranus, but still structured, realistic, and in a way that can be applicable, can be profitable to you and the world around you, to your networking, to your associations, to be shared and used by yourself and others while you're still being seen as the author or somebody that helped created it, aka Saturn. So Pluto is transform us through Pluto are being aware of that transformation where the world is becoming a place where either you will be the leader of your own community, and there will be way more communities, but smaller, and they will be catering way more to the different niches, to the different uniqueness, to the different minds that want to connect to unique minds, but they still share a structure. So right now you have big celebrities, big television channels. That will still happen, but there will be more small celebrities, or there will be like people that don't have a lot of fans, but they are very impactful to those group of supporters. So either you'll be the leader of your small community, or you'll be associating your mental structure and also your physical structure, if you want to, or if that goes into that way, to somebody that is not a huge celebrity, but to you they are an example how to think, communicate, and analyze, and they have structured in a unique way. So today we have an opportunity to overreact or go through surroundings and environments that are overreacting, over-responding in a mutable, spiritual, passionate, and creative way about visions, feelings, and potentials of that new world. So you might be overreacting in a good way, as in we have so many new ideas in how to feel and express and imagine and travel in a way that you can be that leader of the small community, or that you can associate and bring others together to that leader or to that star that was there first, so then you can connect to them to make a constellation. Or you can be too nervous, you can be feeling too exposed, you might be feeling I'm not ready, and that's okay. Pluto moves very slowly, that's now in retrograde, so you have a lot of time to build and transform into this new world. But you might be overreacting, or your surroundings might be making you overreact, because what's being gossiped, what's being Gemini'd right now, might make you not able to travel, or feel ashamed, or feel tired just thinking about that new world. You know what I'm saying? And that's going to be everything for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this spiritual travel. This esoteric cloud surfing was very interesting to me. Hope you guys enjoy it. Remember, use the email and the link tree down below to contact me for personal readings. personal consultations, live consultations, natal chart readings, simple, complete, and tarot readings as well. Thank you very much for watching. I wish you the best thoughts, ideas, feelings, and emotions, and a whole bunch of individuality, creativity, and responsibility as well. Hello, hello, welcome to the stream. We're just finishing right now, sorry about that. And make sure to believe in yourself and in all possibilities. And remember that the best way to be is to be your goddamn self. If you have any astrology questions, let me know through my email or my IG, and we can make that happen. Keep yourself hyped, keep yourself imagining and expanding, but always remember that we want to communicate and relate that with others to build a community, to build a structure, to build a sense of belonging. But also remember, it's never worth it to sacrifice your uniqueness or individuality just to belong, just to belong somewhere. Like we say here in Portugal, mais vale só do que mal acompanhado. It's better to be alone than in bad companies. Till the next time, see you soon.